So now we're going to create the login page. So this page over here. So let's go ahead and go into our login component. Now what we want to do essentially is, first of all, inject the HTML. So create a HTML tag over here. So let's go ahead and do that. And then this HTML tag is going to have a class name. And the class name essentially is going to be the height of full, so h full, which if we hover over it, you can see here it says a height of 100 in here. And then we also want the body. And then this body tag is going to render the children, like so. And this is coming from React Children. So essentially the page is going to be a higher order component of the HTML and body. So in the body, again, we want to have a class name of hfull again. Now, what I want to do is I want to do this for each individual page. So what we can do is create this in its own separate component. So let's go ahead into our components folder and create a new file in here called page layout.tsx. And I'm just going to do REFCE. And in here, we want to copy everything we have and paste it in our return block over here. So let's save that. We don't want this login text. And then now we're having a few TypeScript errors. So we just need to fix them. So this is a react.fc, which is a functional component. And I want to initialize the props for page layout. So page layout props. And then children is of type react.react node. So we now need to pass this in as props. So you can either do it like so, or you can destructure the props, which I prefer doing. So in here, I want the children as a prop. And then we need to pass this page props into the functional component here, like so. So now if I save, you can see here we have a HTML and the body tags being rendered. And then everything that wraps page layout is being rendered in the children here. Now, all I need to do is copy the page layout. And instead of all of this, we just need a page layout tag wrapping all of the children, like so. And we just need to import it now. So now we have the login page. As you hover over it, it says property children is missing in type page layout prop. So let's go ahead and implement the children. So now what we want to do is implement the first div. So this is going to be a div. So it's going to take the height of the screen and it's going to be a display of flex because we are going to have one child and two childs. So let's go ahead and implement the code for that. So div, and in this div, we're going to have the class name of flex, and it's going to take flex1, so the entire available space, and then the min height, so min h, is going to be of screen. So now if you see here, you have a display of flex, so that's what we use for flex. Flex1, which means flex1, and then the minimum height is 100 VH, so that's what screen is. Full will be the 100%. So if I change this to full, this will now be 100%, but we want the screen. So, and to emphasize that we are taking the screen, what I want to do is add a background. So BG of red, and in IntelliSense, we have the option. So I'm going to choose 800. So now let's save. And if we go into our project over here, we just need to go in the login page. And now you can see it's taking up the full screen. We don't have any overflow or anything, and it's all red here. So that is the first section complete. Now inside the div, we want to have two divs. So the first div is going to be the left-hand column. So what we can do is put comments in here. So left-hand column, and then also we want the right-hand column. So the right-hand column will be quite easy to implement because it's just a picture or an image. So let's do left and then right. And now what I want to do is put in the background here for the left into the background color over here. So now let's save. Now you can see this section is the left-hand column, and then the right is taking the flex of 1. So we essentially need to make that a little more even. So let's go ahead and do that. So what I'm going to do first of all is bring in our asset. So let's do the right-hand column. So now we have a login background picture, and we also have the logo over here. So let's import the login background picture, and then render that in the right hand column. So let's go ahead and do that. So import, I'm just going to name it login bg from the assets folder, like so. And then all I want to do now is render an image. The source is going to be the login background that we have imported in. And then the alt is going to be the name of the app, which is the Bowler's Boutique. So now let's save that. And in here now you can see the image is imported. So it's taking up the entire height because the height is, or the minimum height is of 100 VH. What we want to do is we want to move this to the right, and we also want to add in the text or the form over here. So now we've added the right side, which is the background image, onto the page. We now need to add in the left hand side, which is this form over here. So let's go ahead and implement that. So in our left hand column, now what I want to do is I want to split it out into a further component, or I could do separate components in here. First thing we need to implement is the logo, which is this logo over here. So let's go ahead and add that in. So this one's quite simple. It's just import the logo from the assets, and I'm just going to add the comment in. So logo, like so, and this is going to link to the home page. So we're going to use the link type from React Router DOM, and this is going to be to the home page, like so. And the image is going to be the logo, like that, and we just close that off over here. So let's save that first of all, and then we just need to close off the div. So now if I save and go into our application, you can now see the bold is being rendered on the page, but again, it's a bit too large. So what we need to do is add some styling on both sides of the divs here, so left and the right sides of the div. So before I do that, I want to handle the navigation in our application. So every time I have to hardcode the link URL in here, but what we should do is create an enum. So let's go ahead and implement that. So at the package.json level, I'm going to create a new folder called routes. And in here, I'm going to create an index.ts file. And I'm going to export a routes enum. And this is an enum. And in this routes enum, we are going to have an object of all of our routes in here. So we have the login page, the register page, and the home page, like so. So I just need to go in our app.tsx over here. And then instead of the paths we have, so I'm going to essentially replace the paths with the routes enums in here. And all we need to do now is import them in, but I just want to move the routes folder into the source folder. And now what we could do is control space, and then we can import in the routes enum, like so. So now it makes everything type safe because we're adding enums from TypeScript. So if I go back into the login page here, all I need to do now is I want to do routes enum, and then now we have IntelliSense because we're using TypeScript. So if I press the dot, and now we have the three options of the pages that we want. So in our case, we want to render it and link it to the home page. So now that makes it more type safe. So that is the optimization there that we need to implement. So now that's out of the way, what we want to do is style the left hand column. So this column over here. So all we need to do is, again, give it a class of flex. So this is flex as well. This will have a flex of 1, so take up the entire space that it can take up. And all of the items inside will be flex direction of column. So you would do flex dash col, and you could also do flex col reverse, but this essentially is flex direction of column. We want to justify items of center. So it's essentially justify, and then you have all of these options here, but this is the one we want. So everything is placed in the center. So again, we're looking at responsive design. We want to make sure everything is responsive. And then we want the padding on the x-axis to be of 4. So px of 4, which is the padding left and the padding right of 1 rem. Again, this is quite clean because you don't have to type all of this in. It already applies it to the class. We have a py of 16 for now, and let's go ahead and see what it looks like. So in here, we now see a split now. So essentially this is taking up half and this is taking up half as well. We need to shrink that. So now what you might be thinking is this code here is getting a bit too long. So now what we want to do is split it out into little sections. So the way I would split it out is I would do this as a section over here. then the form, which is essentially the email address, the password, and the sign in, and then the continue with is a separate one as well. So let's go ahead and split it out. So we're focusing on this section over here first. And in our modules, I'm going to create a new folder in here. So this is going to handle all of the login components on the login page. And any reusable components will go in the component section over here, and we will encounter them later on. So in login, what I'm going to do is create a component, or you could create a folder and then the index.tsx. But in this case, I'm just going to create a component, and this is going to be called the logo section in our login page .tsx, and then do rafce. And then all we need to do now is copy this or cut it out and import the logo section like so. And let's go into the logo section now. We have a div surrounding it, which is fine. And I'm just going to change this to a React fragment. And we need to import the relevant items that we need. So routes enum, and then also the logo. So let's go ahead and import the logo, because essentially the page should take care of the page. So we don't want to have the granular level of detail within the page. So let's import the assets like so, and then let's just remove the relevant sections. Again, you could split this out as well, but because it's just the image, we're just going to keep that in. So let's just ignore that for now. So that's the logo section we're working on. So in here, let's go ahead and style the image. So the image needs to be smaller. So let's go ahead and do that. And this is quite simple. We just need to give it a height. So H dash and then the number that you want. So in my case, it's going to be a height of 16 and a width of auto. So if we save and check it out in our browser, you can see here that is the same size. So now what's happening is everything is justified as center. As we keep adding underneath, what will happen is everything will just push up naturally. So next thing we need to do is sign in your account, not a member, register now. So a H2 we'll do here, and then some text over here. So that's quite simple. This is going to be a H2, and it's going to say sign into your account. So now we're going to give this a class name. So the H2 a class name of a margin top of 8, which means there's a margin on the top to separate between the logo. You could also do it in here, create a div and then give it a gap, but we'll look at that later on. So a margin top of 8, a text of 2XL, a font of bold, which means it's bold, leading of 9. So if you hover over leading, it says here, it's a line height of 2.25 rem. We're going to give it tracking dash tight, which if we hover over is the letter spacing. So we're giving it a letter spacing of minus 0.025. So we're just tightening everything up. And then we're going to give the text a color of gray. So text gray, and the shade is going to be 900. So now let's save this. Now you can see here, sign into your account, which is how it looks. Now I just want to highlight there's many ways of using Tailwind. There are certain UI libraries that use Tailwind, and you can define your H2s globally, or you could do it at an inline level. So what I want to highlight in this course is that with Tailwind, it is meant to be inline. So let's focus on the inline, but there are other opinions where you can create reusable H2 tags across the site, which again is down to preference. So we're just highlighting different techniques that we can use. So we're just going to focus on its intended use for today. But again, if we pair it with the React solid principles, then therefore we will be able to reuse components. So therefore we can reuse certain class names as well. So let's go ahead and focus on the next line, which is the P tag. And this is essentially going to be the not a member section. So not a member. And then this will be a question mark. And then in here, we're going to have a link. So link to. So again, because we use the enums, what we can do is use the routes enum dot register, because we want to register the user if they're not a member. And then the text for that is register now. And let's close off the link as well here. So now you can see not a member, link to the register now, and let's go ahead and check that out. That's correct. So now we need to style the p tag, and then we also need to style the register now. So let's go ahead and style them out. So the p class name is going to be of margin top of 2. This text is going to be small, so text SM. And if you hover over it, you can see here it gives you the font size and the line height. So again, it's enhancing your classes and making sure you're using the correct rem values. And again, what you could do is you could override your font sizes and the text SM class to whatever you need. That is also in the docs as well, but we won't be focusing on that in this crash course. We're going to give it a leading of 6, and the text is going to be text gray of 500. So now let's check that out. So you can see that is the text there, and it's changed to gray. But now what we want to do is give the link a class name, because this is highlighting the fact that we can register now. So what I want to do is do cursor dash pointer, which essentially it shows that it's a link. We want to give it a font of semi-bold. The text is going to be the text of red, like so, and that is going to be 600. And now what we want to do is when we hover over it, we want to change the shade of the red. So the way you can do that is at the end of whenever you define your style. So say I've given it the base styles over here, and now I want to do hover with the colon. So that means that everything after this is to do with the hover styles. And in our case, it's going to be the text, and the shade is going to be red of 500. So now if I save this, you can now see that this is not a cursor pointer, but this is, and then the shade also changes as well. What I also want to do is show you how to do dynamic class names. So you essentially would use template literals like you would do in JavaScript. And if you want this red to be a dynamic color, we'll look at that in a moment. But essentially, what I want to do is instead of defining it as red here, so what if I wanted to change the colors based on a certain value? So what I could do here is do const app colors or app color, and this could be in a global variable somewhere. So if you was using something like Redux, then what you could do is change the color based on whatever the user has, or if you wanted to have a certain UI color across the site, then you could do it like this, but we'll just mock it for now. So essentially, wherever it says red, we could do Command D and delete that and implement your own color in here. So this will be the app color. So now, as you can see, I've changed the app color to red, and again, if I hover over it, you can see app color is red. So if we go into our login page, it still applies the red. So you can do it in many different ways. It's up to you how you want to define your styles and so on, but this is just a few of the ways you can do it with Tailwind. So now we've done the top section. What I want to do next is the form itself, and what we are going to do is we're going to be implementing a plugin with Tailwind called Tailwind Forms.